Good morning. Hand today's going to be King Jack. Didn't get to review a hand yesterday, so going to do a hand today. This is King Jack Diamonds. We are in early position, first act. We open raise. I think this is pretty standard here. That's going to be my raise here. We do have a poster in this hand. He doesn't call. Another guy, another early position player calls, folds around to the big blind who also calls. This guy's playing 41-10. Looks to be passive, loose, only 10% pre-flop raise. So we've got information where he just called the hijack raise first in from the small blind with ace king, didn't raise it, so he was out of position. Three ways: check call, check check, just with ace high. We do have 4-bet range of kings. We've got 2-bet range with queens, 7, or called 2 bets with queens and 7s. I'm just going to give him a fairly big range here. Something like that. I'd put 50% for premium hands because recognize he might not raise all of them. Since he didn't do it with ace king. I think the other things is he has jack 7 off as called 2-bet from blinds range. We've got limp call with like 5-4 suited, 9-7 suited. So I think he's going to probably be somewhat wide. This is 41%. Let's narrow that down just a little bit. But I think this is probably close. Maybe we can take out the aces completely and say, yeah, he would have raised with aces, and he would have, if he's going to 4-bet with kings, then surely he's going to 3-bet those. But you know, we have 50% for kings, we've got 50% for ace king. Maybe he'll raise, maybe he doesn't. This next guy is playing tight, 15-12. You could say he seems to be a winner over about 1,400 hands. I think he's just getting the odds. He's getting good price to call. Typically, he calls 15% from the big blind. He does have a standard 3-bet range. Looks like it's about 3% or so. Overall, it's 5%. So for this guy, I kind of think queens plus ace king, maybe ace queen, are going to be 3-bet here. We'll scale this down. Say ace queen is 50%. This is 28%, which seems like a lot compared to his 15% VPIP range, but I think, you know, with the caller, he only needs to call 2. I think it's going to get him to call a little bit more. And if we see some of the hands, he's called 2-bet from the blinds range, queen 9 suited and queen 9 offsuit. So I kind of think those are probably the weaker ones. So if he's going to call queen 9, he's probably also calling king 9 and ace 9 and jack 9 on both suited and unsuited. And I did add some offsuit cards here because he's getting a decent price. So overall frequencies are a little bit higher, but we're going to account for that fact by him getting a pretty good price. So we see a flop, a 7-6-3 with 2 hearts. Did we miss a guy? Oh, we missed him. Alright, so we're going to have to get him in there. 36%. He posted. I'm going to have to assume that he's just playing wide range. He didn't 3-bet range, though. We've got interesting 3-bet range, so we're going to give him kind of opposite. We're going to give him a fairly good sized 3-bet range. Let's see what else we've got. 7-6, ace king, ace 5 off. I think we're going to do something like that easy. So he's still at 43%. That's probably good. We just have to remember that that guy's the guy. Alright, so we see a flop and it goes check check. So nothing affects him. It's on us. I think this is kind of a tough spot, somewhat of a tough spot. I don't think we're going to be c-betting a whole lot because we're multi-way. overpair we're probably going to be betting. Not all of them by any means. I think we can check probably aces and kings. Queens are probably starting at like 75%. And then probably these hands are going to be betting because we're vulnerable. An ace, a king, and queen comes out, and these hands aren't going to look too good. So I think we're going to be betting those. Let's get these out. I think we're betting the sets. Actually, we're probably going to check. Let's turn this down because we need to. That's better. 8s, 9s, 10s, and jacks. Sometimes we're betting with jacks. That's 21%. So with the overpair, we're betting our sets, and then it still seems like it's high. Open enders, gut shots. 2-card backdoor flush draws. See, we're getting up there. I mean, we'd be c-betting almost 60%. I don't think that's right. So I think maybe we're going to have to cut this back again. And maybe just 8, 9, and 10. 8s and 9s. 16%. Yeah, that's probably better. Maybe just 8s and 9s. And we're not even going to be betting all of our flush draws. I think the no-made hands here, maybe we're going to be betting these. Oops, let's get those in color. I think we're going to be betting those, some of the no-made hands, the flush draws. On the other hand, I think we're keeping flush draws here. Probably the aces. Going to keep check. We're going to probably bet the king high flush draws. Yep, king high flush draws. We're probably going to be betting our open ender. 2-card backdoor flush draws probably are not going to be bet here. So we'll have those as probably our checks. Or this is our checking, our betting range. So we didn't bet, we checked. So let's go ahead and get these set. So we'll leave jacks. There we go. Okay, let's get our flush draws. We're going to check those, but I think we're betting these. Let's just X those out. And because then we're going to X those out too. Actually, no. We're not going to X those out. Because we still have the flush draws. Oops. Let's get those in. Okay. I think we're missing some. All right. So I think I think that's it. We'll go for it. 50%. And then these two guys. So this guy, I'm not surprised, he's passive. This guy is an aggressive player. I kind of think he would be betting this. I think he would be betting. Yeah, just no made hand. Something like that. And we're going to take out the flush draw and open ender because I do think he's probably going to be betting those. So his hand got weak. This guy's got, I think, 100% of his hands here. All right, so the jack of spades comes out. And that improves us. Now villain 2 checks. He is capable of betting. So when he bets possibly a top pair type hand, although, I mean, seems like a decent player. And once he checks, he's probably just going to check call again, even if he has a jack. Let's do that. So then it's on us. Yeah, we've already checked. So I think we're betting our sets. I think we're betting our overpair. We're going to go for a bit of value. I think we're going to go for our top pair as well. We should have our flush draws in there. We are quite a bit unbalanced. We've got a lot of overpair. So I think maybe we check our aces and some of our kings and we use those as like a check raise. And we bet queens. We bet most of our top pair, but probably use ace jack as a check raise. What happened here? Oh, because we only have one combo. And we're going to use the flush draw as a check raise. Let's get that out. Yeah, 26. Alright, king jack, jack 10. Maybe we're not even doing it 50%. Sets. All right, 23, and now we need bluffs. All right, so possibly these hands. Ooh, that's a lot of ace kings. Yeah. We'll do something like that. That should be our betting range. I think that's at 50%. And that size is probably okay, but we have to remember that we're not going to have a whole lot of draws here. So if we don't have a whole lot of draws, we're going to have to keep some good hands in our checking range. We're going to have to use them as a check raise. It's going to entirely protect our checking range our checking range. So, you know, if we check, we don't want players thinking, well, once he checks, he's weak. We have to include some of those hands, and we have to be willing to withhold them as a check raise. So villain 3 folds, and we thought he's got a lot of junk. He came in with a wide hand or a wide range, so he's out. We get a caller. So this is the blind, and this was the aggressive guy that I kind of assumed he would have called. So I think he's calling with top pair and possibly some gut shots. Maybe. And maybe he's just calling with junk too. But it is what it is. So we'll go with this range, and then the queen comes out. I don't think that necessarily improves him. Question is, if we bet, what's he going to call with? I don't think he's calling with any sort of misdraw. So I think the jacks are going to call. Two pairs are obviously going to call. I would assume that these hands are going to fold. So I think he's calling 45.67%. We're going to beat him on most things. So even with our middle pair, I think we can bet. Maybe ace jack is not going to be a bet, or not ace jack, jack 10 is not going to be a bet because we're not beating a whole lot of them. Oh well, although he does have like jack 9, jack 8 offsuit, that's going to add a lot of combos. So perhaps this jack 10 is going to be like, maybe we bet, maybe we don't. Maybe sometimes we bet, sometimes we don't. I think it's probably safe for us just to say, you know what, no, we're not going to bet with that hand. You know, we've got value for everything else, and then that means, you know, for some of our ace high hands, I think we could go for a little bit of value with maybe an ace king, or some of our ace kings, especially if we don't have the heart. You know, I think both of those are hearts. So yeah, probably just throw in the ace kings when we don't have an ace of hearts or a king of hearts, because that kind of keeps the flush draws in his range, and we'd probably use those as a bluff. The flip side is, if we think villain's going to be betting these hands too, then we can get an extra bet out of him. So we can probably check, let him bet, and then we could call, or we can raise. And if we raise, I think then he's going to probably fold all of his jacks. So I think if that's the case, then I don't really care for the check raise, because the only hands that are going to be calling us would be two pair. So maybe with our sets we can do a check raise if we think villain is going to be attacking, and it does look like he's got aggressive nature. Yeah, aggressive tendencies. So here I checked, which again goes against what our bet here, but I think if we, you know, it's one of those things, if we think villain's going to bet more, then he would just call. If we bet, then we just check and we let him bet. So he did bet. He bet fairly large, 20. We called, and I don't think it took very long to make this call. I showed king jack. He shows 10-5. So that is definitely one of those hands where, you know, he's on his flush draw. That's why he called. He misses. He's not going to call a bet if I make it, but we could try to induce a bet from him. So that works out. The question is, in this situation, pot's 29. What happens if he goes 80? Do I call that? And it's scary. It would be. I mean, with that bet sizing, he's polarizing himself. He really is. So let's get a hand notes on here. All right, so he overcall under the guns, big blind RFI. In low jack with 10-5 of hearts. He's in position. Check called. No, I did 2/3, I believe. And then he bet. I think we'll call it 2/3. All right. So overall, key thing from this hand, recognizing our combos. We're multi-way, we're not going to be c-betting as frequently, and even if we were heads up, we're not going to have a massive number of combos that are going to hit this flop, even give us a draw on this flop. Now against a player that has a very wide range, we're going to probably c-bet close to 100% just because his range is much bigger than ours. Against a player that has a tighter range, and I'd say if we only had a caller by one guy and this is the guy, we're probably not going to be betting 100% anymore, because his range is going to be much tighter than this guy. He's going to have more hands that he could continue with, a higher proportion of hands that he can continue with, whereas this guy, he doesn't. He's going to have a lot of hands, proportion-wise, that he's going to have to get rid of. So then, once we check the flop and we get to the turn, still recognize that if we go, and if we were planning for checks with like our top pair hands, we can't continue to bet all of those because we're going to be way unbalanced towards value. So what we're going to have to do is keep some of those hands back for a check raise, and probably even our top pair, an ace jack, maybe even a king jack is going to be a check raise. But we're going to have to keep some of those over pairs, a certain proportion of our sets behind as a check. Hope one of these guys bets and then come in with a check raise, because that's going to not only protect our checking range, but it's going to keep us from being unbalanced. And then on the river, yeah, we probably could have bet, but again, it comes down to the player. Against a player like this, I think we bet. We don't rely on him betting for us. A player like this who has aggressive tendencies, I think we could easily just go ahead and check, let him bet all of his misdraws, and then we call and we get that extra bet, because I don't think he's going to call if we bet again. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, you can look tomorrow. I might post one. If not, we'll be back on Monday.